It was a great start. You don't get starts like that very often, and we're fingertips away from having them 6 for 9, which is dreams come true. So little things count. I think you've got to give credit to Rutherford and Brevis for soaking up some pressure. We didn't do much wrong. We hung in there for a fair amount of time looking for that one more wicket. I think if we thought we had one more wicket, then it would be right into the tail, with no disrespect to Maharaj and the rest of the guys, but there was a lot on offer. And I guess we're just disappointed we weren't able to get that final blow. It was a stunning start in tricky conditions, and we then didn't chase the game. They just played well, and they just put pressure on the spin overs later on. We'd use seam really well, but we knew we had to use spin at some stage, and they waited patiently, and they rode their luck at times, which you have to in conditions like this, and they got a good score on the board. So there's two things happen with that. One is psychologically you're thinking, what if? And two, you probably come off a little bit disappointed that it's still a gettable score, but you could just feel everyone was a bit flat. So we tried to address that and just make sure that we were still in the fight, because it was a gettable score. But it's a tough pitch out there. They then started to turn. It was still seaming and nipping. And they bowled well enough to put us under pressure and take key wickets. Yeah.
Good evening, Coach.
Evening, ma'am.
At some point, you guys were sitting comfortably at the top of the table. Just in your own words, what do you think went wrong from cruising at the top to now just losing so many games?
Well, we weren't cruising. We were really happy with where we were at. But I've been in enough tournaments to know that there's some very fine margins. So the game in Cape Town with the rain was one that possibly got away. That was a bit of a turning point, and then unfortunately we've had some injuries in key positions, and losing Riley Rousseau, who was in good form, and then Faf du Plessis, Ranjani, and I think today Donovan Ferreira. That hasn't helped the consistency or the cohesion within the side, and we've just struggled really to then get back in the game. We didn't play well in PE, but today was a bit of a lottery. I think conditions they're not good. It's not good enough for T20 cricket spectacle, but you just have to deal with it, and unfortunately we're on the wrong side of that today. So look, nothing drastic has gone wrong. We just haven't been good enough at key times, and we've lost some key personnel, so we're trying to fill those spots, and the boys are doing everything that they can. It's just a case of one more game. If we can get across the line, then get in the semi-finals, get a bit of confidence.
And Coach, just on that, you mentioned obviously the key injuries to players. We've had a
Yeah.
similar incident last season,
Yeah.
losing Donovan Ferreira at a very crucial time. We've lost Don as well as Faf du Plessis. Do you see any connection to that, or is there anything that you'd like to say about the injuries that occur during this crucial time for the tournament each season?
No, it's just bad luck. We're not doing anything to create injuries within the camp. If anything, we're really smart about the way we train the players and rest the players. It's just bad luck. They happen in a game, and sometimes the way players come into the tournament can have an impact, but it's the luck of the draw really, and I've seen the downside of it here in Johannesburg, unfortunately, but been fortunate enough in other areas. So you got to take the luck with the bad, but also it gives opportunities to players. So we're working really hard on the guys that come in. That might not be the first plans we had, but now they're the most important. So we're working on them, and let's say we got one more game, we give it a good crack, and we can still qualify. We might be sitting here going a little run, someone gets in great form, and it's a different story. It's that final line, but at the moment we're very disappointed with today.
Coach, there is still an opportunity to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you've been on a difficult run in terms of the last few games tonight as well.
Yeah.
But what is the conversation going into that game against Paul with still your goals ahead of you?
Yeah, well, that's it. We've still got a shot. So I think we've had a pretty bad week, to be fair. A little bit of rain around, but now we've still got a shot at making the semi-finals. So that's the positive aspect to it. So my role will be a little bit of reflection, more so tomorrow than tonight. There's a bit of emotion in the rooms, naturally, losing a game like that today. But very quickly we'll get on the plane tomorrow, and it'll be about the opportunity that presents. The worst thing would be if this was the last game we played, and then we all disperse with a horrible feeling. So at least we've got an opportunity to give it a crack. We might not be at full strength, but someone's got to be a hero, and there's someone in that room, might be a youngster, might be a senior player, that will have the opportunity to do that. So We'll get excited about that, but I won't rush that. It'll be a long plane trip down to Cape Town and then probably a little meeting tomorrow night. But we've been pretty consistent throughout with our messaging and what we're trying to do. It'll just be a case of delivering on the day.
Coach, Coach, I mean, you still have to consolidate the results of what happened today. Now, going into the final game, it's a game of consequence. Is planning a bit different going into that game?
No, not really. What the biggest challenge is reading the conditions right. That's one of the great challenges of this tournament, is actually trying to predict what's going to happen on your home ground, let alone in away games. So traditionally in tournaments like these, winning at home is really important, and you get to know your conditions and you shape your team around that. We haven't been able to do that consistently for some time. So we go away and down to Pau. We think it'll be a little bit slower, but we've really got to make sure we assess well, we pick the right team for those conditions and play accordingly. So there's a lot of subtlety around the country at the moment and the style that you need to play. And that will be the first thing we look to address and then hopefully get right. But mindset's the most important thing. There's got to be some resilience around it. We can't dwell and get too carried away with the loss tonight, because that'll linger and carry over into our final game, and we can't afford that to happen.
Coach, using talents like Riley Rousseau and JSKvPC, does that change strategy when it comes to chasing scores like these that are sub 150, including how you attack the power play and that's possibilities?
Yeah, a little bit, because it's just trust. The players don't really trust themselves to get into the tournament without a performance, and we've had some players sort of join through injuries, and it just gets a bit disjointed. We had Jamie Smith, who was lined up to play, but he pulled his calf in Australia. Then Ranjani, who was going well, he left. And now with Ferreira, so it just creates a bit of uncertainty. So that, again, that's the coaching staff job, to try and give confidence and certainty, but ultimately that comes from a player's performance, and we are trying to create the most positive environment possible where a young player might be able to come in and do something very special, and that will be something we really work hard on in the next sort of 36 hours, because we need, I'll say it again, we need a hero. We need someone to sort of change the momentum of where we're at. And players' confidence gets dented pretty quick. It's a brutal game, especially in conditions like this. So sometimes you have to bluff it, but we'll be working hard on it.